Thank you so much for being here this evening. My name is Janine LeCure. I am a contractor. I have my own company, LeCure and Associates, and it is such a privilege whenever I get an opportunity to be affiliated with a City of Phoenix project. So I am just delighted to be here tonight. Want to introduce some key folks who are also with us tonight. First and foremost, the mayor and councilwoman from District 1, Thelda Williams, is with us. Thank you for being here. And right next to her is Councilwoman Deborah Stark. Thank you for being here. We have a full complement of city staff, part of the executive team from the city manager's office and executives from the council offices, plus a whole lot of other folks from the city of Phoenix who have volunteered their time to be here tonight. We also have the executive leadership team from the Phoenix Suns. Again, very privileged and happy that they're able to join and share information. Also with us tonight is a Spanish translator. I'd like you to meet Carmen Cota, who is seated over to my left, your right. If you would like, there are Spanish translation headsets over on, thank you very much, Jose, over with Jose on this side of the room. So if you would like that kind of help, please stop over there or visit with Carmen or any member of the city staff. Those are the folks that you'll see wearing name badges tonight, official City of Phoenix badges, and they're going to be glad to help you. The city's cable TV station, Phoenix TV, is here tonight. We want you to know that all of these meetings, there will be 5 public meetings in total, all of them are being recorded. They'll be played back on Channel 11 on Phoenix TV itself, and although they will also be available on the city's YouTube channel. So please be free if you have further questions or have neighbors or friends who would also like to know what's going on but perhaps couldn't be here tonight. That's a great place to send them for more information. I would also like you to meet our court reporter, Kimberly Portik. She's back on the right-hand side there. This part is pretty important. If there are those of you who would like your comments recorded verbatim into the official record of this meeting, would you please see Kimberly, and she will make sure that happens for you. You can, even if you visit with Kimberly, you can still make your comments at the mic in the center of the room here, and if you filled out a comment card, that too will be included in the information that's ultimately provided to staff and to the council most importantly. So take advantage of that. The purpose of our meeting here tonight is to provide you with public information on the proposed renovation of the city-owned arena. The City Council a number of weeks ago requested input on the proposal that they're looking at, and it is, your input is considered to be very, very valuable in this process. Our goal this evening is to provide background and facts and to give members of the public, to give you the opportunity to make your comments and to have your questions answered. Again, as you walked in the door, you were invited to fill out a comment card where you can share a comment or ask a question. We do have plenty of time set aside later in the meeting for public comments. If you don't want to speak, you can write your comment on that card and you can either turn it in at the tables over here or simply raise your hand and a member of the City of Phoenix staff will pick it up. Let's see here, and that's, I'm just catching my place, give me a second. The process of our meeting tonight, let's talk a little bit about how this is all going to work. We will begin with a presentation by the City of Phoenix's Community and Economic Development Director, Christine Mackey. She will provide an overview that includes the history of the building and why it was originally built, the economic impact the arena has had over the last 3 decades, the renovations needed and the challenges involved with those in the current facility, and how the proposed agreement with the Suns would work. After that presentation, we will open up the meeting for your comments and questions. We'll wrap up the meeting tonight by inviting you again to visit any one of the information stations in the back. There you will find, again, staff from the Suns and staff from the City of Phoenix will be delighted to help you with further questions and to take note of any further comments you may have. Most of all, the most important meeting, the reason we are meeting together tonight is you. Your feedback is critical. And if you happen to come up with a question tonight that we are not able to answer on the spot, I want you to rest assured that you will get an answer. The information that you provide to us on those comment cards, someone either from the city staff or from the Suns will return your call and make sure that you have an answer to your question. Now it is my privilege to introduce the City of Phoenix Community and Economic Development Director, Christine Mackey, to begin her presentation tonight. Thank you. Come on up, Christine.
I've never been serenaded before when I've started a presentation. That's lovely. Okay, let's give him a round of applause. So, as Janine said, I'm Chris Mackey. I'm the Director of Community and Economic Development for the City of Phoenix, and I am here today to talk to you about the arena. But first, one of the things that people often, I have a really loud voice to begin with, so I'll kind of move that away. In fact, if it's okay, I'm going to go to the handheld mic, if that's okay. I move. What color is that, orange? Orange. Better? I'm much better standing than podiums. I'm not really good with things separating me from other things. So first of all, our economic development team, what we do. So our job is to bring new jobs into the community, help our existing companies grow, bring new revenue into the community, and drive new construction and new projects. So just from a way of background as to what the team that I have the privilege of working with does on a day in and day out basis. I am going to talk you through tonight kind of on the history of the building, the renovations and repairs on the building, the proposed transaction that's here. It'll last about 20 minutes, and at the end we'll open it up for all the questions and comments you might have. So first I'll ask you, Veterans Memorial Coliseum on the screen in front of us here. How many of you have been in attendance in an event in the days of old, back when the Suns played there, when the concerts took place there? How many of you were in the Madhouse on McDowell? So I was too. I'm going to totally date myself. I saw Neil Diamond there. I saw Aerosmith there when I was a kid, and lots of other concerts, and went to a number of basketball games back in the day. As that building got a little bit older, the city of Phoenix started having conversations with the Suns and the concert promoters at the facility as a way to reactivate downtown Phoenix. For those of you that remember downtown of old, I worked there in 1986. You would get into downtown right at 8 o'clock in the morning, you'd get out to your car at 5 o'clock, and you'd get out of downtown very quickly. It wasn't a place where you stayed after or enjoyed any libations or shopping. It was someplace you left pretty quickly. In fact, where City Hall sits today, there was a Jack in the Box that I used to go to when I worked in downtown. So the City Council was really interested at that time in reactivating downtown. And one of the ways that they were considering doing that was by bringing the Suns and a new arena into downtown Phoenix. But much like the City Council today, the City Council of 1989 did not want to tax our citizens. So they worked diligently to create a tax that's on our rental cars and on our hotel rooms. And those revenues fund what's called the Sports Facilities Fund, or a tourism tax. And that paid for the original construction of the building. It's paid for the building for all these years, and it's what the city would be using to renovate and remodel the building today. Interestingly enough, when the Suns and the concerts left the Veterans Memorial Coliseum, it was 27 years old. And now we see what takes place in the Coliseum today. It's the State Fair, it's trade shows, home and garden shows, other things like that. So if we look at the history of the arena, 1989, the City Council did vote to create a tourism tax that would bring a new arena into downtown Phoenix. What they did was they issued a bond, and that bond has been covered since its original creation by the Sports Facilities Fund, or the tourism tax. In 1992, the building opened. In the lease extension for the lease for the building expires in 2032. So people look at me and say, that's 14 years from now. Why are we having this conversation today instead of in 2028 or 2029? In the original agreement that was created and executed in 1989, there is what's caused an obsolescence clause. And the obsolescence language in the lease says that on July of 2019, the anchor tenant can claim obsolescence in the building. At that time, independent arbitrators are brought in. They review the building themselves. They come up with a report on the building, and they tell the city what needs to be improved in the building. At that point, it is 100% the responsibility of the city to make those improvements in the building. If the city chooses not to make those improvements in the building, the anchor tenant or the Suns can leave in 2022. So we're very close to making those determinations. We're talking about 6 months from now when those decisions will be made. One of the most important things I think that as I'm talking to people that they don't know is that the city owns the building. The city's owned the building since 1989, and the Suns are our anchor tenant in the building. They are about 30% of what happens in the building. The other area is, of course, concerts and events. We see Disney on Ice, we see the Rattlers, and other teams play in. But since day one, the city's owned the building, and through this new transaction that the staff is recommending for council consideration, the city would remain the landlord of the building. If we look at how the facility's been funded since the day it was built, it is a tourism tax. It is an existing tax that's been in place since 1989. It's funded by 2% on rental cars and 1% on hotel rooms. About 93% of the rental car tax comes from outside the state of Arizona, and about 88% of the hotel tax comes from outside the state of Arizona. So those of us that go to San Diego in the summer when it gets too hot here and we want to go enjoy the beach and it being a little bit cooler, San Diego's tourism tax is about 14%. So when we take a hotel room or we rent a car in San Diego, we're paying that tax there, and that pays for their buildings. When they come here, they pay that tax here, and it pays for our buildings. That tourism tax pays for the mortgage on the building. So as I said, the city took out a bond back originally on the building and has been paying its mortgage on the building ever since. Even in the worst of SB 1070, even in the worst of the depths of the recession, the accounts always had enough to cover the mortgage on the building and to do any type of major capital improvements that needed to be done on the building, including the renovation that happened earlier in the 2000s. What that allows to happen is these great events to happen in the building, whether you're the Suns, the Mercury, the Rattlers, or any one of more than 100 concerts and events and programs that happen in the building. It creates a sales tax. Whether you sell tickets, whether you buy tchotchkes, whether you enjoy a cold beverage or nachos, or you eat dinner in downtown, whatever you do, it creates a tax out of that building. That tax then goes into the city's accounts, and the council chooses each year how they'll spend that revenue. And that revenue is about $13 million a year that comes out of the building through ticket sales and through t-shirt sales and through buying different things, comes out of that building. And that goes into the city accounts to support police and fire and parks and streets and all the services that our citizens enjoy. Currently, there are, this year, more than 130 ticketed events in our building. Only 41 of them, about 30% of the events are actually Suns programs. The balance are if you went to see Garth Brooks, if you saw U2, if you saw Selena Gomez, if you went to see, and I know the WWF is coming or WWE. Julie, I say it wrong. WWE. Thanks. Sorry. I don't know about you, but I was in New Orleans just recently, and they were having that event in New Orleans. The people and the money pouring into that city were incredible for wrestling. The amount of money that people spend was astronomical, and that's coming into downtown Phoenix in the near future. But also Disney on Ice and other family events happen in that building. So what that 130 events means is there's a ticketed event in that building every 3 days in downtown Phoenix. But I think as I look at it, these 200 community events means just as much. So the Suns sponsor different community events that happen in the building, whether it's Boys and Girls Club, whether it's YMCA, whether it is basketball, youth basketball camps. I think this last year there were 41 Suns games, but there were 80 youth basketball games that happened in the building. So there's a lot of activity that goes on in the building on a constant basis. You see on the bottom, Diana Taurasi, it was a shoe fundraising drive for our homeless, so that the homeless, they made sure the homeless didn't go without shoes. Now we're going to go into the economic impact, or the reason that I'm here in the job creation and the revenue creation for the city. This building brings $182 million in economic impact into Phoenix each and every year. And what that economic impact is, it's hotel rooms, it's retail spending, it's jobs that are created, it's people that support the arena, it's the players and the performers that come in and stay in the community. About $13 million in direct revenue to the city of Phoenix comes off of that economic impact and is revenue generated that supports all of the activities that happen in the building. We see more than $14 million going to the state in revenue, and that's not including about $8 million on an annual basis to the state and county in ticket sales. We see jobs. So there's 380 full-time jobs in the arena today. There are approximately 700 part-time jobs and almost 1,200 jobs that support the arena throughout Phoenix. So there's 58 companies throughout the city of Phoenix and nearly 1,200 jobs that might be the garage door roll-up company. They might repair the plumbing. They might provide food services or other things into the building. Might be the farmer in West Phoenix that grows the lettuce that goes onto the burger that you buy while you're there. There are nearly 1,200 jobs that are supported in the building. Our facility's old. It's 27 years old, and if people look at it, well, yeah, my house is 27 years old. 27 years old doesn't seem very old, but you have to remember that 40 million people haven't flushed the toilet in your house, and that's a lot of toilets flushing. 40 million people ride our escalators up and down, and they've been maintained, and they have done routine maintenance, but they're reaching the end of their life. When you think about when you go up and down them and they're stopped, you can see down here in the upper right-hand corner, that's the line that's waiting to go up on the escalator because they are getting a little bit older. You see it's dinner time, so I really do apologize for the one that's on the upper left. That is actually a sewage pipe, and it has reached the point where it can't be snaked any longer, and it needs to be replaced. In fact, recently the city council replaced some pipes that were in the building because they had reached the point of no repair. And on the bottom, you'll see how the pinch points on the concourse actually work. If you're lined up outside the ladies' restroom and somebody's lined up at the food bar, it's really hard to get the traffic to flow back to their seats and to get going where they need to. You have to think this was a building that was built in 1992, and everything in 1992 was just a little bit different. So as we look at our technology needs, you'll remember 1992 was AOL dial-up. You know, you would log on and you get the woo, woo, woo before you found that you've got mail. Now you think about, our television cameras that are with us today, and we're all tweeting out and sending out messages and pictures and Instagrams during concerts and games. That technology just needs to be more and more updated, not necessarily only for our anchor tenant, but for all the events that happen in this building on a constant basis. We look at our ADA accessibility. Well, the building itself doesn't meet the ADA requirements of today, and those would be things that we would be improving as well. Our roof, just like your roof, it's been patched. This is the Phoenix sun. It's the heat, it's the cold, it's beating down, it contracts, it expands. We have patched the roof as much as we can. It leaks now, and we need to be able to replace the roof. And you also have to think about the structure supports inside of our building. In 1992, you think about the concerts. It was Neil Diamond who stands on the stage and sings and talks much like I do today. The concerts today, they are swinging from the rafters. Their backdrops and settings come down from the rafters. Where we can support about 90,000 pounds, concerts today support about 225,000 pounds. So our building itself needs some significant repairs. So we'll walk through the proposed transaction on the city-owned building. Our investment would be $150 million capped on the building, and our money would be spent on public infrastructure. Whether our anchor tenant leaves or stays, we still have improvements that we have to do in this city-owned building. It's paid from the existing tourism tax. So I think the thing I've heard the most as I've chatted with people over the last few weeks is they're certain that it's a new tax on our citizens. It's not. It's not on your property tax. It's not on your sales tax. Now, I'll go to a concert and I'll stay in a hotel room in downtown Phoenix, or I'll do a staycation here in the summertime. If I do that in the city of Phoenix, absolutely I'm contributing to the tourism tax. But if I don't, I'm not. As I said, it's 93% from outside the region and 88% if it's from your hotel rooms. We would contribute $2 million a year to an existing reserve and replacement fund. And again, that comes from the tourism tax. Again, the council is adamant that we don't burden our citizens with any of this building. The city would remain the landlord. Our transaction would not change from the way it exists today. The city would own the building with or without our anchor tenant. Suns, on their side of the coin, would pay $80 million plus any cost overruns. And for any of you that are on the contracting field or any other areas, you know there's always cost overruns. They are completely responsible for any cost overruns. Today, up until today, the Suns have paid the city approximately $30 million in rent. That rent amount would change, and over the next 15 years, we'd collect about $60 million in rent. And that money would go into the city coffers to be able to support the items our citizens enjoy. The Suns are responsible for building a new practice arena in the city of Phoenix. And why a new practice arena? Well, again, our building was built in 1992, and when our building was built, you didn't have female referees. And so the locker rooms were built only for men and not for women. So you have to have two separate areas. The concourses have pinch points. But even more importantly to us, they practice in the arena today. We would much rather have them in another facility, meaning we can program the building more and make more revenue in the building than we do today, because we're not having to say, oh, we can't put an event in the building today because the Suns are practicing. They would actually have their own practice facility. And they would now remain a tenant until 2037 with one 5-year lease extension, which could keep them here until 2042. As they have since the arena opened in 1992, the Suns would continue to pay 100% of the operations and routine maintenance on the building. So as an example, other arenas around the country have an event promoter that runs their facilities for them, and cities pay those event promoters to run their facilities. The cities take on all operational risk. As an example, the Glendale Arena. Glendale pays $5.6 million to their event promoter who runs their building for them and puts the concerts in and puts the events into the building. The Suns do that for us. And in fact, since 1992, the Suns have paid more than $300 million in operations in the building, and the city of Phoenix has paid $0. And they would add $1 million a year into the reserve and replacement fund. And people would ask, well, why are they $1 million and we're $2 million? It's our building. We own the building today. We've always owned the building. So if we look at the historical investment on the building, when it was first built and until today, the city's invested about $79 million. The Suns have invested about $150 million in capital expenditures in the building. We would flip it today, and we would be $150 million, and they would be $80 million plus any cost overruns. So we're really close to a very equal split since the original inception of the building till today. Other things our citizens have asked me is, what are other options? And I want to assure you that we did not just immediately say we should invest $150 million in this building. We have been looking at this for about 4 years now and looking at what those options might look like. So let's talk through what some of those options are. As we talked at the beginning, there is something in the lease today that lets the Suns, our anchor tenant, let us know the building's obsolete in July of 2019. So what if we let it go to obsolescence? We could, as I told you, the arbitration group would come forward. They would review the building. They'd come back. And this contract is very perfunctory. There's no margin for wiggle room, no margin for error. It tells us exactly how we have to do this. They would do the review. They would come back and say, this is what is due in the building. They could say, this is the amount that is needed to keep the building from being obsolete. The city council would then have to make a decision. Are we going to be in charge of 100% of the improvements as opposed to sharing it with our partner who's now willing to invest $80 million in the building? Or the city council could say, you know what, we're not willing to invest in the building, and our anchor tenant could then walk out in 2022. So if that happened, I've been asked, why not the city become the event operator? I have a really good, smart economic development team, but promoting at concerts and being an event promoter, probably not in our area of expertise. We would have to bring someone on board like other event centers have done around the country, like Glendale does, to be able to bring in someone who could do the event promotion in our building. Now, instead of getting the event promotion and the routine maintenance and operations for free, we'd have to pay somebody to make that work for us. We've seen that happen. If you look at Miami, Miami did that a number of years ago. They sold their building for a nominal amount of money. And the event promoter tried to get the building to work, and ended up after 4 years just leveling the building. They couldn't actually make the facilities work. Because I think the thing as we look at it, regardless of what happens in the building, if we were to become the operator of the event of the building, we still have a building that needs $130 to $180 million invested in the building. The other thing that I get from individuals is, why not just sell the building? Well, you could do something like that, but then you would look at what's going to happen in the building. That did happen in Houston. They sold their event center, their basketball arena, and it became a mega church. That's where Joel Osteen does his church services out of. So not that same thing that's going to bring a destination and draw into downtown Phoenix every 3 days, where people are coming down and enjoying downtown Phoenix and spending money. You know, some people will say sell it for the cost of the land. Well, we do know that this building is about $15 million to demolish. And as a property owner, anybody that would buy it from you would require that you return the land to them free and clear. So if we looked at that, because as people talk to me, to them that seems like the most logical option to do. So what I have in front of you, you'll see the arena site is the one on the right in yellow, and it is just over 3 city blocks. You look at the one on the left, and that is a full city block of development. So you could say, okay, well, that would fit 3 of those full city blocks into the arena site, which would take quite a period of time to redevelop. The revenue that we see coming off of the full city block is about 20% of the revenue that we see coming out of the city-owned arena each and every year. So even if you were able to put 3 of those developments onto our arena site, you're only collecting 60% of the revenue that you receive off of the arena site today, so substantially less in revenue, and that would come in over a significant period of time. So in summary, it is a city-owned building. It's been a city-owned building since the day that it broke ground. It is paid for by an existing tourism tax. There are no new taxes for our citizens. There are no new taxes for even our tourists. It remains exactly as it is today. We see a $182 million economic impact out of the building each and every year. It puts about $13 million into the city coffers that our city council programs into police and streets and parks and other things our citizens enjoy. We see about $14 million going to the state of Arizona and jobs created out of the building. So that concludes my presentation. What we'd like to do is to bring Janine LaCour back up, who is going to bring up our experts, and we're going to open it up to all of our citizens for questions.
Thanks, Chris. Let's see. I'm hoping one of these microphones is on. Let's see. I'll use this one for now. So as Chris mentioned, we are now moving into the public comment section of the meeting. All comments will be officially recorded as part of the record for this meeting. If you filled out a card, it really doesn't matter whether you checked the box that you want to speak or didn't check that box. Either way, all comments will be included as part of the official record. I mentioned Carmen over here and Jose on the other side of the room. If you need assistance with Spanish translation, they are here to help you. We also have Kimberly, our court reporter. Just a reminder, she is in the back of the room. You can also, if you would like to have your comment delivered into the record verbatim, she is the one to help you with that. You can also ask a city staff member to help. For those of you who do want to provide comment, here's how it's going to work. When I see your comment card and call your name, you're invited to come up to the microphone here. Each speaker will have 3 minutes, and as I mentioned earlier, we're going to make sure, we're going to plan to help you end on time. That'll be part of my job, is to let you know when your time is running out. Again, we want people to be able to get home and enjoy the rest of the evening, and it's important to be fair. We want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to comment. If at any point you feel like your comment has already been shared publicly and you would prefer not to have it repeated, or you would decline to speak about it, just let us know. We'll still put it in the official record for the meeting. And again, if questions are asked and we cannot quickly get an answer for you tonight, we will follow up with you later. We've invited several key city staff and Suns management to join us for this portion of the meeting. I'm going to invite those folks up now. Denise Olson, who is the Chief Financial Officer for the City of Phoenix. Denise, come on up. John Chan, who is the Director of the Phoenix Convention Center, is following right behind her. Jeremy Legg, the Special Projects Manager for the Convention Center, is joining us. Jason Rowley, the President and CEO of the Suns, thank you for being here, come on up. And Jim Pittman, who is the Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer for the Suns. Thank you, Jim, for being here. Thanks all of you for joining us. So with that, I'm going to hope, can we have this microphone on, please? Thank you. We're going to move to the comment cards. First person up is Teresa Bowles. Are you always first? Well, so glad we got you again.
I have a very loud voice, so I don't think I need to be too close. But I think it is a crime if the city does not take care of this building. We are season ticket holders to the Rattlers. The building needs help. The seats are broken. It's very crowded even for a Rattlers game, and that attendance certainly isn't what Phoenix Suns do. I'm very disappointed in people tying the renovations of this building to the record of the Suns, because I think it's two separate issues, and it shouldn't be done so. The city needs this building, and I don't think people understand the fact that it's not costing us any extra money. Today on the radio coming in, I was listening to Mac and Gatos on KTAR, and they were expounding about how it's going to cost us money to do this renovation. So I think somehow we need to get that word out a little better, maybe, to people so they understand that it's not going to cost us any new taxes. But I think the building's important. I think it's important to downtown, and it's important to us as a city and to us sports lovers, you know, that we need it. We need the Suns here. We need a team. We need something to draw people in. We've got the Final Four. We've got all of these things happening in this wonderful city. And to leave that hole in the ground is disgraceful as far as I'm concerned. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Teresa.
You're welcome.
I'm going to invite the next person up, and I'm going to cover something I neglected to mention earlier, but Nancy Hudak, I hope I didn't massacre your name. Come on up to the microphone if you would, please. There is a timer over here, and you all can actually see that, I think, from where you are. It will turn yellow when your time is about up, and it makes a very noticeable noise when your time really is up. So again, I will help you with that, but just so you know that the timer is available to you.
Okay, I won't need that much time.
Thank you.
As she mentioned, my name's Nancy Hudak, and I'm actually here representing one of the Phoenix Suns community partners. I think not only as a Phoenix resident, I would love to keep the organization downtown and keep the event and the arena downtown, but we work with Helping Hands for Single Moms, which is a community partner here locally in Phoenix, and I'm on the board of directors. And Phoenix Suns Charities reaches out to more than 100 nonprofits every year, and us being one of them. And just wanted to briefly share a little bit of what the Suns has meant to us in our organization. I know we're not talking just about the Suns, it's about the arena, but they're a big part of our organization. We support single mom college students. So these are moms in our community that want to make a difference and go back to school and get a college scholarship. And the Suns have provided over $100,000 in support for our organization over the last 10 years. And we just want to make sure that they stay and they're happy and they keep supporting the community. They provide tickets to games, holiday events, help us with a Christmas event, sponsors the moms. We buy Christmas presents for all the kids that the moms are going to school for, and the Suns continues to do that. In the last 10 years, since the Suns have been supporting our organization, over 230 low-income single moms have graduated from college, and over 150 of those moms are now nurses in our community. So these are moms that are now working, paying taxes, and supporting and turning things around in our community, and Phoenix Suns and the other organizations involved in the arena. I think that's important. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Next, this might be Carolyn Schuster. Ms. Schuster, did I get your name correctly? She may have stepped out for a moment. We'll come back to her. Jake Montemayor asked that his comment be read into the record. It is, the renovation is a 50-50 deal, and he says, do it with an exclamation point. It will crush downtown if not done. Thank you, Jay. Franklin Ovieri, would you come on up to speak, please?
Hello, I'm in support of the arena being renovated. If you look at the top 7 oldest arenas in the country, number 1 is Oracle Arena, and then number 2 comes Madison Square Garden. If you research that, Madison Square Garden was renovated twice, and they're over 51 years old. So Talking Stick Resort Arena needs a much-needed renovation. They deserve it, and the city of Phoenix should be proud of having it done. And I'm happy that they came out here to bring this out to the public, and we appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Next is Marge Lindsay.
I said, oh gosh, because with the presentation that was made, I don't understand why we're here. You did a superb job in explaining why we should stand behind those renovations. And I even learned more than I thought I knew coming into this with the extra dollars spent. You know what, the city of Phoenix is the owner or the landlord. The anchor tenant is just that, the tenant. They don't have those obligations. I've been a realtor for well over 40 years, if I were to admit to being over 40. No. And, you know, I don't have the unilateral right to just say I'm going to change my mind and not do it. I take my hat off to Jerry Colangelo, who was one heck of a negotiator when he put this together almost 30 years ago. And the fact that the city didn't know how to negotiate differently, and 20-some years later they don't like it, that's their problem. They need to stand behind it. To me, the one word that just keeps coming up is integrity. You know, and where is the integrity in just arbitrarily changing our mind and saying we're not going to do it because we don't like it? And I keep hearing, well, it's only 1% of the people that go down there and go to the games. I'm one of those 1%, and you know what? I've paid my dues, I pay my taxes, and I'm entitled to that. I'm proud of Arizona, I'm proud of Phoenix, I am extremely proud of the Phoenix Suns and doing all they're doing without receiving any credit for it. So I'm just very much in support of it and hope that the votes go that way.
Thank you very much, Marge. If while you're speaking you notice me looking over my shoulder, that's just checking the time. So I'm riveted to your words. Don't worry about that. Candace, I'm going to apologize in advance for mispronouncing your last name. I think it's Freemau. Freemau? Oh, good.
Yes.
Come on up.
You did great, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I want to echo Marge's comments and compliment Jerry Colangelo and his negotiation skills, because that is who's brought us to this today. This tourism tax is a dedicated source of revenue. It must be used for this, or where's it going to go? It's just going to continue to pool. So if we are neglectful in taking care of our responsibilities for a city-owned asset, if we defer that maintenance, if we defer it on our home, it's going to cost us more in the long run. Look at Burton Bar and what happened there by not taking care of things the way that it should have been. I mean, those are basically my points, but again, I want to emphasize the tourism tax cannot be used for police. It cannot be diverted into any other general fund that the city needs the dollars in. It must be used for sports authorities. Thank you.
Thank you. Wes Harris.
Good evening again. You may recall I was at the Saturday meeting. I've got a couple of other comments. First, are you implying that the city shares in the other event revenues?
We do. So
We do? To what extent?
is this on? No. How about this one? The city does share in 10% of the revenues that come off of the building.
Okay, but you don't show that in the generated on your talking points. You don't put that down. You've got 12.8 million per year.
It's actually included in the 12.8 million.
Oh, so 12.8 million
Includes the revenue that we
the
share.
revenue.
Correct, Jeremy?
It's not just sales tax, as has been implied.
It's sales tax and other revenues.
Okay, all right, that's good to know. All right. Second, I give you the 150 million if the building is falling down. The only problem is we don't know what the 150 million is going to be used for. There's no detail. You haven't provided anything that says we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to do this. They're going to spend so much money to replace the roof, so much money to upgrade the structure so that it'll hold up your event weights. So I don't know. If I were a city council person, there's no way I could make a decision on the basis of the information that's been provided. It's totally inadequate. The Suns are in there 41 days a year. 41 days a year. They're paying rent that amounts to about $7.27 a square foot for commercial real estate. This is a bargain. This is even 10% of going rate. And we don't know how much money is generated for the Suns. We have no idea, because that's a private company, and we don't see that information. They see our side, but we don't see their side. And I think we need a little bit more information as to what you're actually doing. And you're implying that you're going to build a $25 to $50 million training facility here in Phoenix, whereas the other sports facilities are going to be on the reservation. You're not planning on going out there?
The part of our term sheet with the city of Phoenix and what they negotiated and what we're happy to do is that it's located in the city of Phoenix.
Okay, but I submit that putting that down as a source of additional revenue is not a valid point, because wherever you
I don't
build...
think it's been put down as a source of revenue. It's just the fact that it's going to be put in the city of Phoenix as an additional amenity for the city of Phoenix.
No, it does say that. You actually say that in your talking
Well,
points.
there will be tax revenue generated
Tax
off of
revenue,
that.
but that tax revenue will come from anybody else who develops the land that you have to develop.
Either way, it's tax revenue.
It's not going to remain empty, not in this city that's growing like it's growing. So, there's a lot of stuff in here that's really fodder. Okay, well, you'll hear from me again. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to invite Bill Meskin up to the microphone, please.
Yeah, I have a question. You say that this arena is a city-owned facility. Now, does that mean that the city owns that property outright, or you have a mortgage? What bank you're dealing with?
So
That doesn't make sense.
absolutely. So I'm going to turn it over. We do own the building. I'm going to turn over our CFO, who can tell you about the mortgage and what's left on the mortgage.
Okay.
You've got one.
Got all kinds of microphones. Can you hear me? So yes, we still owe a little bit money on the existing
How
facility.
much money?
We owe $4 million, a little over $4 million.
$4 million on
Four. So
4
4.
is left.
4 million
So the rest of it's equity.
is
So you have
equity in the
like a
building.
$200 million property that you owe $4 million on, is what you're telling me.
I don't know about the $200 million property, but we owe $4
Well,
million
get an appraiser
on
to
it.
appraise that building. Another thing I have here, what are the renovations that are necessary on this? It sounds to me like the upgrades you want to do is all the new electronics, RF signals for everything, sensor flushing toilets, all that kind of stuff that's unnecessary. I've been to that building, and if the Suns are responsible for servicing that building 100%, why do we have these problems that you're talking about? I'd like to see something on paper about the estimates to rebuild what you're telling me that needs to be rebuilt on that building. That's number one. I don't know if that's public record, but it should be on the computer somewhere. I'd like to know where this cost is coming from. Thank you.
If I could take just a moment to, sir, the list actually is on display back at the renovations and repairs. So when we finish today, if you'd like to just go back and read through them yourself, they're there for you to go through. The other question I'd like to answer is we've got a $200 million asset that we only owe $4 million on. Don't I wish that was true? If you look at land in downtown Phoenix, and I've worked on and my colleagues have worked on the land transactions that surround this building. So we see that land being anywhere from $110 to $150 a square foot. So if you go at the highest number, you're about $60 million in land. So $15 million of demolition of the building means that you are about $45 million of land that would take place there. If you look at the structure of the building, and these buildings are very few buyers of these buildings, we look at similar buildings that have been purchased around the country, and then we look at the value of our building. Our estimate of the value of that building is somewhere between $28 and $35 million. So it's not, unfortunately, you love the fact that you've built a $200 million building, and it's unlike our houses. They don't stay worth what they're worth today because there's so much limited buyers. So we've definitely looked at that. If we had a $200 million asset, it'd be a whole different ballgame. No pun intended, sir.
Thank you, and I'm just going to take a quick second and see if we've got 2 working mics. No, we don't. So if we can get this one operational again, that would be very helpful. Thank you so much. And I would also like to take a moment and introduce Councilman Michael Nowakowski. I saw him come in over there. Thank you, sir, for being with us. Next, I'd like to invite David Pollock to the microphone, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Can everybody hear me? Sorry.
Yes.
I've been around Phoenix for 20 years. I remember when the place was America West Arena. And my question is, we've gone from America West Arena to US Airways Arena to talking Stick Arena. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if somebody buys naming rights to a building, you buy the assets as well as the liabilities. My first question is, where is their commitment to all of this? I mean, their naming rights are up on the blessed marquee.
So as a naming rights partner, and this is essentially the way it works all the way across the industry, is you essentially step in and you pay a certain dollar amount for the right to have your name, whether it's on a marquee for a building, whether it's for a naming rights for a particular club space, but in no way does that obligate the person paying you that money, paying the sports team or the venue operator that money, anything relative to the construction or maintenance of the building at all. It is a straight contract for advertising purposes, not a contract that has anything to do with maintenance or upkeep of a building.
I see. My other feeling about it is this, and I kind of agree with the other speakers that have come up here before, because I'm originally from the East myself. I grew up as a combination Celtics and Knicks fan when I was growing up.
That's got to be tough.
Yeah, it is. It is.
A lot of internal battle going on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there was. But my point is that I can't even begin to imagine, what this city would be without the Suns, because, correct me if I'm wrong, the Suns and the Diamondbacks are the two original teams that are here out of the main four, right? Cardinals are a transplant. Coyotes are a transplant from Winnipeg, right? What I'm basically saying is that I want the team to stay here. And I want the improvements certainly to go in, but I kind of feel also the way that other people do that they're kind of looking
You
for
have
like
about
new
30
sports
seconds.
boards and new luxury boxes, which is what most owners really look for because they figure that's going to be the big cash cow for them is those luxury boxes. I yield the floor.
Sure, and that's a great point. And as we've stated, Chris talked about a little bit earlier, and it's definitely back in the boards there. The way this deal is structured is that the $150 million the city puts in is for strictly the infrastructure components that would be normally expected out of any landlord, right? I mean, think about if you own an apartment building or if you rented a house from somebody who owned that home. Obviously, if the pipes burst or the air conditioning went out, the expectation would be the landlord would pay for that. In this circumstance, because obviously there are components of the building that are more fan-facing and revenue-facing that are specific to the Sun's operations, so suites, some of the higher-end VIP areas, some of the locker room areas, things of that nature that are more specific to basketball and more specific to revenue generation for the fans. Those are the things that we're covering, that $80 million. And to the extent that $80 million isn't enough to cover those things because if all of a sudden there's a decision on our part to spend more money because we want to upgrade some of those areas even more, that's on us to pay for it. So that's the reason the city, and Jerry was obviously a great negotiator. Frankly, the city should be commended right now for negotiating a great deal in this circumstance because the reality is we could just sit and do nothing and wait until July 1st of 2019, go through arbitration, and the Suns not be responsible for paying a dime. What we've negotiated with our partners at the city is a situation where both parties come to the table with a reasonable amount of money to make the building work for a long period of time that's satisfactory to everybody. We feel like it's fair. It's a relationship that's been a terrific partnership for going on 3 decades, and it's something that we think as an organization is worth carrying on. And over the last 3 years working with the city of Phoenix, we've come to what we think is a fair result. But I thank you for your comments.
Thank you. I saw a few folks come in just within the last few minutes. If you need a comment card, would like to have one, it's available on these tables over here. Next up is Tim Montemayor.
Hello, I work at 1580 The Fanatic, so I do a sports talk radio show in this town. And the only reason I'm standing here is because the misinformation that has been put out on this deal is mind-numbing. It is amazing. So this is the term sheet right here. Anybody who'd like to read it, the city emailed it to me. I called him and said, hey, I live in Phoenix, which I do, and I'd like to see the term sheet. And the guy said, sure, what's your email address? And by the way, we're building a website so everybody can go on the website and see it. The misinformation that I specifically talk about, I think it's funny that the AZ Central issued a retraction after they reported that Robert Sarver was calling council people, we're leaving if you don't do this deal. I'm moving to Seattle. The AZ Central issued a retraction on that story. And then there was a poll that was put out that was 2 days before the vote on this? 66% of likely voters in the city of Phoenix don't want this. They say no. Like the media, bit the hook like they were sport fishermen. It was amazing. Oh, and then we find out that it's 450 people. 450 people. Marson Media is the name of the company who did this poll. This is all online. Go and do the research, trust me. They did this poll of 450 people on landlines only with a robot that called the people on the landlines. And they asked them, would you be in favor of putting your tax money into an arena renovation for Robert Sarver and the Sons. No idea what it was for, no idea how it was structured. Oh, and then we find out that they had a company who did it for them. The company Data Orbital is the one who actually executed the poll. Data Orbital, at the time on their website, because you won't see this on their site today, their stated modus operandi was, we'll work backward to deliver the desired result. We'll work backward. We need a poll that says most people in Phoenix do not want this arena to be renovated. So we'll deliver you that result. By the way, they did 450 people. Do you guys realize there's 762,000 of us that are registered to vote in Phoenix? 450. And we lit this town on fire for 3 days, and now there's no vote. A couple other things that I think that are quite amazing. Robert Marson came on my radio show, the Marson media guy who did
You have 30
commission this poll.
seconds left.
He comes on my show and he says, well, what's going to happen if the city doesn't have the money to do the renovation? Read the term sheet, folks. The Phoenix Suns have the option, black and white in a contract term sheet. If the city doesn't have the money, the Suns have the option to cover the cost. So it's not like the building just falls down and everybody goes away and they're moving to Seattle.
Your time's up.
Thank you.
Thank
See you at
you.
the next meeting.
Thank you. And again, we're down to a little less than 10 cards, so if anybody wants to speak and has not let us know, please go ahead and fill out a card. Next, if Jeff Birch would come up to the podium, please. Or sorry, up to the microphone.
Thank you. I was able to attend Saturday, so I won't recover any of that. A lot of good points made regarding the tourism tax and how it could be better used for other things. But that notwithstanding, there are other cities, many others. I am originally from Iowa, in Dubuque, Iowa. There's a tourism tax there. We don't have a sports team. Most cities do have that, just so everybody knows that. And it's used for a variety of purposes. I guess, though, I'm a sports fan like everybody, and we want our teams. What about the Diamondbacks? Someone just mentioned them. Now, I know it's a county facility, but they needed improvements. So what happened there? The county said, here's the deal. You can stay in there, but you'll need to make the improvements. And so that's now what they're doing. And they draw about 2.3 million people to downtown Phoenix, correct? Big economic impact, like 4 times as many as the Suns. So why doesn't some of the tourism tax go to the Diamondbacks, or vice versa? Maybe the Suns ought to have the same deal as the Diamondbacks. Maybe, I guess my solution might be, why not just give the Suns the arena? And then you keep your tourism tax for whatever else. And you'll still get 2.3% sales tax on everything sold down there.
So I'll answer
Yeah.
in order, and then if Denise wants to take over the microphone too. So number one, the Diamondbacks building's not a city-owned building.
Right.
This is the city-owned building, so our focus is on this building. As you so well put it, the county owns that building. The county had a tax on the building that built the building and then sunsetted the tax. Right. The city council was pretty visionary in making sure that we had an evergreen fund, meaning it's a fund that always has money put into it to take care of a city-owned asset. So we would actually be able to keep the building going, keep the building moving. We'd never have to go back and burden our taxpayers if we wanted to keep the building moving forward. And then finally, where you said that the 2.8 million, that they're a bigger economic engine in downtown Phoenix, we've actually run the math through our Downtown Phoenix Inc. and how active our restaurants and hotels and nightlife is based on when there's a baseball game or when there's a basketball game or a concert. And it kind of goes in order. The downtown is most activated with concerts and events, and the Suns, Mercury, Rattlers on that level, the Suns and Mercury. And then the Diamondbacks in activation of the buildings downtown are actually at the bottom of that. So I'm not, no disparagement, we love the Diamondbacks. If I was a sports fan, I would like them, but I'm sorry, I had to admit that. It's unfortunate, not unfortunately, it's just the way that the activity goes in downtown, and I'll turn it over to.
one of the reasons that is there's a fundamental difference between people going to the ball games and going to either a concert or a Suns game. A lot of times, people go to the ball game and that's where they eat. They eat there on site. So they're not going downtown to really frequent a restaurant. They're going there because they want to get their bag of peanuts and they want to get a hot dog in the ballpark. That's kind of part of the experience.
But the city still gets 2.3%.
They do.
Of all
No, they get the tax on that for sure. But the surrounding impact, the restaurants and all those things that happen, much more for an arena business than you will get at a ball. And that's not just for Phoenix. That's for any major downtown area where you have an arena and either a football stadium or a baseball stadium. The larger stadiums, which don't get a lot of concerts, they tend to just be the events for baseball, or in football's case, 8, or if you have a few playoff games, maybe 10 games a year, there's just not the same level of overall activity. That our building has 135 or so ticketed events a year, another 200 community events where people are coming down. They might be in there for a charitable event, but they're still down there, and after they're done, they're going to go across the street to the Arrogant Butcher or some other restaurant and grab dinner or lunch.
Well, great information, but yeah, like I said, just give if you only owe $4 million, just give it to the Suns. Just, here's the building, you guys run the team and all that, and the city can just collect their 2.3% revenue.
No, not giving them anything.
Thank you.
That's the sales tax, they have to.
Arlene Smirk, I hope I'm saying your last name correctly, asked that I read her question. What would happen if the Suns pull out, if they were to leave either Phoenix or leave the arena?
So I guess I'll start and then pass it down to anyone else. So we went through those options on the screen where we went first to, I can back it up, I guess I could just talk you through it. So if they were to leave, the city would then look at what its plan B would be, whether it would be, we would operate the building ourselves, whether we'd sell the building. We would go through our options and our opportunities and present those to City Council for their consideration. But we've been working diligently to ensure that our anchor tenant stays in the building, so we really haven't worked on Plan B. We've been working towards securing an additional long-term lease with our anchor tenant.
Thank you. Katrina Caylor, would you come up to the microphone, please?
Hi there. Yes, my name is Katrina Caylor, and I live and work in downtown Phoenix for the past 15 years. The reason I didn't go to the downtown Phoenix version of this is that I really wanted to hear what other people in the city thought about this arrangement. And I'm really listening with open ears and looking with very clear eyes, and I'm still landing on the same key notes as I review this great information. First and foremost, I want to thank the city and the Suns for taking the time to engage in a community dialogue. I think that's just critically important. The other thing that stands out is the Sports Facilities Fund. It's literally the name of the fund. It's why this fund was created. And for the city to take responsibility for its assets is critically important. Someone mentioned integrity earlier. I stand by that statement as well. I'm very close to the arts and culture community in Phoenix. And if the city were to engage in this kind of arrangement with the arts and culture community, I would hope that you would follow that same lead, that you would live up to your promises, that you would sit at the negotiation table, make the best deal possible for the city. I am one of those people that believe that a strong downtown makes a strong city of Phoenix. There is no question in my mind, that the arena contributes to a strong downtown and therefore a strong city. It's a fact. And speaking of facts, for those people who are focused on the fact that the Suns benefit from this arrangement exclusively, I don't think that's true. And I think the facts on this sheet and the presentation here shows that. I think the community benefits. I think the arts and culture community benefits specifically. The other non-sporting events, over 200 non-ticketed community events, that's a significant number. That's right up there with, it's beyond museums, it's beyond libraries, it's beyond other facilities that people know and love and frequent on a regular basis. It's critically important that this be maintained. And the idea that, you know, the practice facility, I have to say, I'm really glad that it's going to be built in Phoenix. I'm pro-Phoenix. I want Phoenix to win. And so if there's going to be an investment by this group, I think it should be in the city of Phoenix. So I want to thank you for making that commitment. And again, going back to the
You have less than 30 seconds.
number of events that take place at this arena, if this were to go a different way and the city was to contract with a different promoter to bring in events in this facility, find a promoter that can bring in 130 ticketed events from the get-go. We would be starting from scratch as a community to fill this facility. And I think that would be irresponsible of us to take that path.
Thank you for your comments. We're down to the last 4 cards. Garrick McFadden, would you come up, please?
Hello. The ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, was founded in July 26th of 1990. The stadium was built in 1992. On the slide presentation, it said that we needed to bring the stadium up to code. Why wasn't it built to code? That's one question. Second question, some cities, states have contracts in order that if the owner of the team sells the team, the city has the first right of refusal. Has that been explored in this setting? 3, how much, or is there going to be an increase in the ticket prices for this, for the Suns as a result of putting $80 million in overruns potentially into that? What is that percentage looking at day 1 next year going forward? 4, the value of the, for example, I'm from Minnesota. When Red McComb sold the Minnesota Vikings, a new stadium was built. Shortly later, that added over $1 billion of net worth to the owner of the new Minnesota Vikings. My question is has there been also a consideration of a clawback if the Suns management sells the stadium? Will there be money to be able to receive that goes towards the contract? 5th thing that I have in consideration was the arbitration period that you will have to go through if it goes into obsolescence. That would only be looking at the physical plant. That would not include, if I'm wrong, please correct me, but that would not include creating new luxury boxes. It would not be a new gymnasium or parts of things that would be more, as the gentleman said, forward-facing towards the audience members for the Suns or luxury skyboxes. So that would not be included. So if that was to be had, that would also have to come out of the Suns. And let's just make it a nice even 6. Thank you guys for all doing this, being here and answering these questions, and I appreciate your time and the information provided.
Thank you for all those good questions. So the first one was, why was the arena not originally built to ADA standards?
So thank you for all your questions, first of all. The facility at the time, when it was starting design in 1989 and eventually got built in 92, was certainly built to the standards of that day. But things, including the Americans with Disabilities Act, there are provisions that evolve over a period of years. Every few years there are updates to those codes. So while at the time it was compliant with all of those, there are improvements that we can make to the facility based on what those are today that weren't even fathomed back in the day. Just like some of the infrastructure requirements, that there weren't 10,000 fans, tweeting a picture of Beyonce or a Suns player back in 1992. Those infrastructure needs are there today.
Thank you. The next question, I have to admit, I didn't quite follow, but I'm hoping this panel of smart people did. It had to do with the first right of refusal if the Suns were to leave.
Yeah, there are examples of that, I think, across the country, and not many of them, but that's not anything that was ever put into our original lease agreement or operating agreement with the city of Phoenix, and not something that exists and not something that we would grant or has been asked for by the city of Phoenix. At the end of the day, as any private entity that owns a business, you are free to buy it, sell it, as you will as the equity owner of the organization. So that's not something we're doing at all.
Thank you.
If I could just
please.
briefly add to that, if this is related to that, is that there is a provision that we certainly don't want to be in a position where the city invests money in this facility and then the anchor tenant decides to leave the next day. So the terms of the contract are very clear that the Suns could not play their home games in any other facility anywhere through at least 2037, and that there are specific legal remedies where the city could go to court and specifically prevent them. And if for some reason that were still not successful, there is a substantial up to $200 million penalty that they would potentially owe.
Next question is for the Suns. A decrease in ticket prices.
Well, look, if you go down to your local car dealership 5 years from now, I think you're going to find the car prices are a little bit higher than they are now for a model that's been upgraded over time. We haven't, as part of our economic analysis, we have not tied increases in prices specifically to this renovation. Obviously, like anything else, as time goes on, there's an increase in prices. So am I going to sit here today and tell you that prices are never going to be increased? Well, that'd be foolish and disingenuous. That's not the case at all. But in terms of specifically for this renovation, that's not how we've looked at this. We've looked at it more in terms of what does the building need, where are the areas that we think are critical for us to be investing our money, and the city has looked at it similarly to say, where are the parts of the building that make sense for the city to be investing their money.
The next part of Garrick's question was, if the Suns were to sell the team, would the city pick up money as a result of that deal?
No, similar to my prior answer, like any typical landlord-tenant relationship, oftentimes in a landlord-tenant relationship in the commercial setting, yeah, you'll have revenue sharing or a piece of rent that's tied to an increase in sales or an increase in revenue for the tenant, but you never see a situation where when the legal entity or the entity that owns the business sells that business, that the landlord gets a piece of that unless there's a contractual obligation as a partner, which doesn't exist in this case.
With one exception, if the new owner were to sell and move the team out of the arena, then what Jeremy just talked about with the liquidated damages would kick in, and that could cost up to $200 million.
And the last part was arbitration. Christine, do you want to go through how that works?
Absolutely. So on the arbitration side, there would be a team that could come in and say what the building is worth, what the building needs to be repaired, the things that need to happen. It would have to meet a standard that would allow games to be played in it today. So their arbitration could come back and tell us that we had to do things that weren't just infrastructure facing, that were fan facing as well. Is that Jeremy?
There's an additional piece I want to add to that we really haven't covered much, but Chris, you did mention earlier that the contract itself and the provisions that cover the obsolescence and the arbitration are very specific as to what constitutes obsolescence. It's essentially if you have physical deterioration, but another component of it is economic feasibility. And so what any arbitrator is going to do is they're going to come in and they're going to look at the building and they're going to compare it to similar buildings around the country. They're going to say, can this building right now generate, as is, the kind of revenue and have the same economic feasibility as state-of-the-art or as counterparts that are existing out in other markets right now? And if they determine that it can't, then that becomes part of the renovation consideration. So an example would be the $80 million that we are willing to pay. Those are revenue-generating components. So you could actually find yourself in a position where the city of Phoenix could be on the hook for the whole $230 or whole $250 million if they so choose to then make those renovations. So that's the other piece that people should keep in mind, that component of it, the piece that deals with revenue generation and economic feasibility, is also part of that obsolescence determination that is, if it goes to arbitration, is out of our hands. That's determined by a third party.
Thank you very much. Christine, did you have more to add?
No, I'm good.
Okay, good. Thank you. Stephen Molina, would you come up, please? We're down to the last three cards now. Stephen, I noticed that you would like to talk about Mr. Sarver. We are really talking about the arena. Okay.
It goes with that.
Thank you.
Pardon the pun, but I think this is an absolute slam dunk on all ends. This benefits the city, maintaining the asset that they own. It helps the Suns with what they need to do. And I really applaud you guys for working together, because any situation you look where this deal does not go through, it costs the city more money and less revenue. So I think it's an absolute no-brainer to do. And about Robert Sarver, I've seen a lot in the media and on social media that, well, he's a rich owner, we shouldn't give corporate welfare to him, It's about doing the right thing for the city. It doesn't matter how much or how little someone has, doing the right thing for the city is what's important here. So we need to focus on that, not Robert Sarver or anyone else. And we have to also factor in that there was so much pride in the city when the Suns have done well. I would hate to see that go to another part of the city on a Native American land if this deal doesn't go through, because I think we all know that the Diamondbacks are most likely moving to Native American land in the future. And when you see like one casino go up, another tribe builds a nicer, newer casino within a few years. So I think it's foolish to think that Robert Sarver is bluffing and all this other stuff, that the Suns couldn't move to another city or Native American land, and then the city of Phoenix will be out of luck and lose all this revenue and all this tax stuff. So I just really hope this goes through, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Now the next, I think I made a mistake, so I'm calling a name I may have called before. Carolyn Schuster? Okay. This is probably a little askance of our topic, but her question is, the team is bad, shouldn't the money be spent on players?
Well, we just signed Devin Booker to a $168 million contract for 5 years, so that's, I think in terms of commitment to the players and where the team's heading, obviously, and you're right, to me, where the team is at really shouldn't be something that people are focusing on. This is a financial decision, and obviously people have an emotional connection to their sports teams, as they should. We want them to have that. That's obviously the most critical part of fandom. But this is a financial decision and an economic decision. Supporting a team or not supporting a team is an emotional decision. The example I'd use is this: if you were going to say you'd support this proposal because we were a 60-win team right now, you shouldn't do that, because in 7 years we could potentially be a 20-win team, because that's the nature of sports. It goes up and down. What you need to be looking at, and look, if you philosophically disagree with this type of an arrangement, this type of public-private partnership, that's fine. Everybody has their right to have their own beliefs and opinions, and I completely respect that, as does Jim, as does Robert Sarver. But if you're looking at it through the lens solely of where the team is at or how you feel about the owner, those things are not things that are appropriate to look at in this circumstance, in my own opinion. So,
thank you. Last question, and I think we called Nancy earlier, and she may have been out of the room. Nancy Hudak, did you have a moment to speak, or do you want to have one? She spoke. Very good. I knew I'd made a mistake in there somewhere. So if you'd all hang on to your seats for just a moment, I first and foremost want to thank the panel for your good thoughts and great answers. Thank to all of you for being here this evening. We have one more comment card. Bramley Pavlin, you can go ahead and come to the mic, please.
Hi, good evening, Bramley Paulin.
Sorry?
You mentioned that it's all numbers, so let's focus just on the numbers. The difference between the city owning the arena and not owning the arena as income is simply $1.5 million a year. If the city did not own the arena and somebody else owned the arena, the Suns play in the arena, their sales tax and so on, all of those sales tax numbers still come into the city of Phoenix coffers. The rent is $1.5 million. Now, there was some speculation, talk about what's the arena worth and what would happen if it was sold. A number of $25 million for the arena came up. Do you realize that the $25 million, it would take how many years? 15, 16 years to generate the $25 million on the rent that it's receiving now? That's a really good deal. I would encourage the city to do an RFP and put it out to the market, because I think you'll receive somebody interested. Because at the end of the day, when it's time for that arena to be demolished, it has land value that's far above the $25 million. But here's the thing. The numbers that are being discussed are kind of like half-truths. I don't mean that they're a lie, but I mean the $60 million that's discussed, divided by the 15 years, is $4 million a year. How do we get from $1.5 million a year in rent to $4 million in rent, the extra $2.5 million? Is there a built-in bump, or is it based on performance? Where in the agreement is there an incentive for the Suns to put more people in the seats so that there's more sales tax revenue, directly or indirectly, from the game? So, you know, there's nothing in the agreement that I can find, and I wish that if I'm wrong, you'll provide it to me, where it says that the city must provide any money should this go to arbitration. Okay? If they went to arbitration, does the city have to, legally must invest in that arena?
Chris?
So I'd be happy to answer that one. It does not say that the city absolutely has to. That would be a city council decision as to whether they wanted to make that investment or not, as to whether they would. We would still own the building.
Thank you. Last call. Anyone else who would like to turn in a comment card and speak? Very good. So as we close out this public meeting, we have just a little bit more business to do, so if you'll hang with me for a moment, I would like to invite you again to visit the information stations at the back of the room. We will have city staff and Sons available for you to chat with. These include, those placards that you see include the overview of the arena, a table with information on renovation, financial experts, and information on the overall economic impact of the meeting. And the Sons also have 2 tables here with staff, and they're ready to talk about the Sons organization and Sons charities. So if you would please thank our panelists for their great participation and answers tonight. These meetings will continue on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights. Tomorrow, January 8th, will be at the Goulet-Buff Community Center, 3435 West Pinnacle Peak Road. Please, again, do visit the information stations. Most of the information that was discussed tonight is also available at Phoenix.gov/arena. So if you'd like to have more information and provide further comments, please do. Mayor, I wonder if you have a few words to say before we close up tonight. Always.
I too want to thank the staff. I know it took a lot of time to make the presentation. The Sons, thank you for being here and explaining your position. And most of all, I thank all of you for coming. I invite you to continue. There are more meetings to attend, but your input is important. And we're here to listen to you. That's why we have council people here. It's being recorded. And thank you for your comments. I appreciate it very much. Have a good evening and have a cookie.
Absolutely, grab a cookie. Councilwoman Stark, would you like to add a few words?
I want to thank everyone for attending. This is a hard decision for the council, but a lot of what happened back in '89. Good or bad, it happened back in '89, and now we have to work on the issues today, and I am here to say that I do support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Nowakowski, would you like to say a few words?
I just want to thank you all for coming out. It's important that we hear from you all, because it's really, even though it's a tourist tax, some of us actually rent cars, go to the hotels, so we actually put into this tax also. And as I listen, I've been taking notes, and last meeting I had way more notes. And so we're going to listen, just basically figure out what's the right direction to take. So I just really want to thank you. I know how hard it is to to spend an evening away from your family and from your friends, and this is just so important for us to learn. So thank you once again. Thank you
Thank you very
Phoenix
much.
Suns and the staff for being here.
Just a reminder that the official council meeting where this issue will be considered in full is Wednesday, January 23rd at 2:30 p.m. You're welcome, as always, to be there for that meeting. You can also watch it on Phoenix TV and on YouTube. Thank you all very much for your input and participation tonight. Have a safe drive home.